Thank you so much for that wonderful health nugget, Mema Sikela. So we are moving to the main study right now. So I'm really looking forward to this. So without wasting any more time, I am going to invite the Mwoko family. I think I can see some names that I know there. I don't know how you guys have planned to do it, but I'll be handing over to yourselves so that you can start with some practical stuff and some of the lessons you learned and some of the stuff you're doing and just around homeschooling and country living. So I'm gonna hand over to you, but we are anticipating that we're gonna have a longer segment of question and answer. So let's just keep it there. And if there's anyone who has a question or who has a comment on some of the principles that are going to be touched on, please just note them down so that after the brief introduction and the brief presentation they're going to do, we can go into a longer question and answer session. I believe that some people like me who are still living in the cities will have a lot of questions to want cleared before maybe we can take a decision to go down there. So yeah, thank you so much. Over to you, Ntate Mwoko, and family and friends.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can I be heard?
You can be heard.
All right. I would like to thank the organizers of this study for the opportunity that they gave us as the Moko family to come and present our experience of both country living and homeschooling. I know most of you maybe are wondering, is this Ntate Moko? No, I'm not Ntate Moko. My name is Junior and I am Ntate Moko's son. So I will be introducing the topic for today and the handing over to the others to talk. So before we begin, I would like that we would begin with prayer, and I will pray. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this wonderful day that you've given us. We are thankful for the opportunity that you've given us. We pray that you may guide us and speak through us, and that our experience may not reflect what we have done or what we have accomplished, but may you be seen ultimately as the leader and the guide throughout our journey. We pray all of this in your name I pray, amen. To begin, I don't know if I'll be able to share my screen. Cathwell, Mr. Sinyake, is it possible?
Yes, Ntate Mwoko, I have given you permission.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so our presentation today will be about country living and home-based education. To begin the presentation, I want to begin by reading this quote from Ellen White, the book Education. It says that true education means more than the pursuit of certain course of study. It means more than a preparation for the life that now is. It has to do with the whole being and with the whole period of existence possible to men. It is the harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. That is book Education, page 13, paragraph 1. And so with this, I will introduce Ntate Moko this time. He will come and relate about his journey and what led him to, venturing into country living. So Ntate Moko will be our first speaker. and I will give the stage to him.
Good afternoon, friends. This young man does not want to be called that demo, so we'll accept that for now. Yeah. Yes. My journey actually began by what we decided a few years ago as a family, that we wanted to homeschool. I mean, to study a book for our devotion in the evening, and the book that we chose that year was the book called Adventist Home. And as we're reading this book, it was telling us how we should organize our families as Adventists. And there was a beautiful statement that really attracted my attention that said, if you own a piece of land, you live like kings and queens. And as a result, I was really interested to know how this whole thing worked. And it's like I then invited a lot of inspiration to come my way. I think it was around 2007, 2008. And I think at the time, really, the call for country living was all over. And I would go to a camp meeting at Sidevin, or I would go to a Present Truth camp meeting in December. This would be the subject. And as I was a bit hesitant, because it was not an easy journey that you have to now leave the comfort of your environment in Johannesburg to come out. I then remember the statement that I read from Inspiration a few years ago that said, truth is like a water in the hose pipe. As you practice what you have learned, the more will be revealed to you. But if you don't practice, there is nothing more to reveal to you. And it was really troubling me because I could hear the Lord speaking. And the question was, what is it that I heard? Because I think like most of us will realize that more often times when this call comes, we don't have the necessary means at our disposal immediately. So we put whatever that we had, whether it was pension fund or whatever, selling few properties that which we had in Johannesburg to try and acquire this country home. Yes, that's how the journey began. And we have reaped some benefits. I'll just get into that. Just want to move to the next slide here. Yes. All right, thank you. Just want to make sure that yes. And this is the statement that I would like to, that came from the book Adventist Home. It's a book that I'll recommend to anybody who, even if you're not married, please lay your hands on. It's a beautiful book, Adventist Home by Ellen G. White. It's been a source of inspiration for most of the things that my family practice. This was the book of inspiration. The statement I'm going to read particularly comes from another booklet. It's a booklet that you can read overnight. It's called Country Living. There on page 9, paragraph 5, she says, again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provisions. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling would be a very serious one. And this statement really troubled me, that it will be a very serious one. And I read in conjunction with the statement that, a crisis coming, relentless in its fury. And she goes on to say, a crisis is always, spoken high off before it arrives. But he says this current storm that is coming, it's serious. And this statement really was troubling me, that we need to get out of the cities into rural districts where houses are not crowded closely together and where we'll be free from the interference of enemies. And this is, as I read this, I started to, as we're looking, this little booklet I'm talking about, Country Living, has got few guidelines on how the property should be, what should you find in the property, what should be available. and how far should it be from the city. It was a very good guide. And nevertheless, there's been a lot of benefits which we reaped. This was our first property where we could buy a property and live in the property and still be able to get income. You know, some properties you rather you have to rent it out for you to make income. But this one was the one that you just needed to live on the property and still be able to get income out of it by what we found basically, which we later improved. So some of these benefits, a home that earns income. Number two, the serenity. You know, we came to a place where you see a neighbor once in a while. If you plan your trips in such a way that you go do certain things not regularly in town, you are likely to see your neighbors sometimes after 2 months, if you're not really busy. And it's a place where it's just quiet and there are animals and everything. And this serenity sometimes can be intimidating to other people. But, you know, we thank God that by being here, we have, learned to love this quietness, which can be intimidating. And also, there have been some environmental benefits. We learn to tolerate, you know, creeping creatures. You know, I know a lot of people will be worried about snakes, but we learn to live with them. We learn to know that there are leopards in the area. There are this, and this kind of environment. When you're in the city, for us, when we arrived, we used to be so careful. But as time goes on, the environment changes you, and you get this all other benefits. And one of the major benefits was growing your own food. If you'd visit some farming areas and realize the amount of chemicals that is sprayed on food, you'd really think twice before you buy. And I know some people, they'll say, you know, this one is coming from a certain, supermarket that it's expected to sell quality. But being in the farming environment, I know what goes on. So you're always careful to know what is it that you can. So I think the last point that I'll mention is that for us, the journey has been of a character development. I read a few years ago also from the same book, Adventist Home, that said, it is 10 times harder to perfect the Christian character in the city than in the country. And I was eager for this, but I need to confess, I still feel it's still harder. So I wonder the folks in the city, how do they fare on this one? I think the other point, yeah, it's not been an easy road, yet we have traveled it. And actually these struggles, they have really been a blessing. The struggles we went through. This morning, I sang a song for other group that I was worshiping with, to say that there are trials in life that, you know, sometimes seem that we can't bear them, but these trials, as they come, they make you pure gold. And the struggles we have met here, like I said, it's not been an easy journey. We really appreciate God for all the mountains that He took us through and the storms that He brought us through. Yeah, I think the big question that I was given before I came to present was that, what really, apart from homeschooling, I mean, apart from country living, what propelled us to homeschool our children? I searched, unfortunately, I could not get a statement that really got me scared, but I got a similar statement very close to it, and it's what I'll share with you before I stop. This statement is from Adventist Home, page 163, paragraph 4, and it says, the question to be settled by you is, am I raising a family of children to strengthen the influence and swell the ranks of the powers of darkness? Or am I bringing up children for Christ? For me, for us to come to that decision of homeschooling and eventually of country living, the statement I was looking for actually said, it's from the same book, I think I'll still find it. It was saying, as we raise children, we are able to tell whether are we raising for hell or for heaven. So it's not an accidental thing, the destiny of children ultimately. So, and this same question, I told my wife a few years ago that had I read this book, perhaps I think I would have been so scared to have a family. Because it's a question whether will I be able to swell the ranks of the devil, or am I raising these kids for Christ? And really, this is the big question that I think the next speaker will be able to handle it further. I thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ntatemok.
Yes.
I just wanted to also suggest that if possible, on the chat box, you can maybe put links to some of these books that you are quoting. So not everyone in this call, I believe not everyone in this call may know how to even spell some of the names of the books. So maybe please just share the links in the chat box so that we can know where to read these books or where to order them. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know of that.
Okay. Remufilo will do that. Remufilo will put the names of the books that we are using.
Okay, yeah, or the links if you can. Thanks.
Yes, links possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this, what Mr. Moko has spoken about was related what motivated him to pursue this country living and some of the benefits that he faced. Environmental benefits. He could grow his own food. He could have a place that earned him income, and while staying on the same place, on the same property. And I can also attest to it. It was something that, as we were looking for a country home, it's not something that we expected to happen. And I remember our first season, we were actually excited. I was personally excited because, oh, you're picking avocados, you can sell avocados. And it was a learning experience for me where, okay, avocados are taken to a market, you take them, there's agents involved. So it's a process that ordinarily at my age, I would not know, but because I was exposed to this environment, I was able to learn and know the bigger side of the picture, that this food that I'm eating comes from a farmer who takes it to an agent and such and such. And with this, I will introduce my second speaker, which is my mother, Pinky Moko, and she will talk about the benefits of homeschooling and the different types of methods and her experience as a mother who homeschooled her children. So Pinky Moko will speak from now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity that you have given us to share our experience as homeschoolers. Mostly what we're going to share is the benefits, what we have benefited from homeschooling, because I think over the last week, it was covered what homeschooling is and how to go about the processes and all that. But maybe here and there, I'll just add a few things that we used as a family to homeschool our children. So the first thing that I want to do is to break the ice, to explain what homeschooling is. The traditional definition for homeschooling is the education that happens in an environment outside of a traditional schoolroom, which also will have a curriculum that a family will follow, a set curriculum that will follow, and there will be a set schedule that the children will follow and the mother will follow. But I will say for me, it's okay. Of course, that's where I started. But as you gain the experience and as you relax around this new idea, it was a very new idea when we started. It's about 13 years ago that when we started homeschooling. And when we started, the idea was very ancient. We went around asking, do you know anything about homeschooling? How do you do it? And it was not easy then. But as we have grown as a family and we started knowing better, this is how we then defined homes. Oh, what did I do? This is how we then, okay, this is how we then experience homeschooling, that it's an environment that we as parents, we create for our children, for both the parents and the children to learn. And learning does not only take place in a schoolroom. You use the environment, the kitchen, the garden, the shops. When you go shopping, that's where homeschooling will take place. It's not only limited to the classroom. And that's one of the things that as you grow, you start to know and realize that, okay, it's not just about removing kids from school and putting them in a classroom that is at home. And when you do that, you tend to concentrate on other things. You follow the book that was quoted. It's also where we gathered that we should teach our children in an environment that allows them to grow spiritually, physically, and mentally. So we took that, and it was the base of our schooling. So how did we, I mentioned these three things: mental and spiritual and physical development. With us moving to the farm, it helped a great deal because we could use the farm environment to develop our physical abilities, where we will go out in the mornings, depending on the weather, and work in the farm. Sometimes it will not be in the morning because we will be required to go and work later. Whatever job that we will be doing will require us to do the work later. So I think Risiko will elaborate on that when he presents. The spiritual part is the one that really drove us into this path of homeschooling, because to tell the truth, when you are at home, you can teach children certain things, especially when they are small. You can teach them certain things, but because their characters are not well developed at that time and the influences that they have are many, it's harder for a parent to make an impact. So how we benefited as a family is that when we had a character, when we see that our child is lacking on being obedient, we'll try to do everything around that character quality, obedience. What obedience means, keys of obedience, that when you are told to do something, do it fast, do it now. And when you do it, go extra mile. So we took advantage of that. And it was also the work of the heart. We'll teach children how to, it's not just about themselves. How do they serve other people? And it starts within the family circle, that as a family, if somebody needs something, we can sacrifice. Today, it might not be me who is getting a pair of shoes, but okay, I'll give you a chance because mine can last until the next month. Today, it's not me who is getting the best whatever, but you can go first. After you, my friend, after you. That's what we use the time for homeschooling for. And The other thing, I skipped something very important in the physical part. When you teach people physical and the work of the heart, children will have skills and talents that you see as a parent, and you will target those skills and talents and develop them and nurture those skills and talents to help your children grow. For instance, one child will be very good at cooking, and you encourage them to do something about that. And when there are visitors coming around, you target the child who has that talent to serve the visitors. And they feel very good that, okay, when somebody appreciates a dish, then you say, who done that for us? Who done that? Not encouraging them to be, obviously, when you are developing their child's character, you don't encourage them also to have that pride of saying, I'm the best cook around town, but it will be that, oh, it was good that I could serve the visitors and they appreciated what I gave them. The other thing that we benefited as a family, when kids were very small, they used to go to school. Not all of them, 2 of my boys had an experience of going to school. And whatever that we taught at home, there was no emphasis. Children learn, they need to be emphasis when they learn this. The environment must allow them to be able to practice that. So you'll teach them that we don't eat sugar at home. But when they get to school, the reason, the very fact that they can't put sugar in their syrup will be, oh, shame, you don't eat sugar. It's not like they will feel that, okay, that means if they feel pity for me, that means they must be good about this thing that they are denying me to have at home. So that was one of the things that really pushed us. The health principles were broken. Kids will eat whenever and wherever, however they want to eat. And it was a challenge for us, and really for us deciding that we wanted to homeschool our children really helped us on that fact. But also the time that we spend with our kids, it's a treasure that I will always appreciate, that you spend this time and you use it really to benefit the family and the community that you live around. It was not just time for ourselves and we don't think of others. When we get the opportunity to go out there, we'll go and do some mission work. And at first for them, it was really scary, but as you do, with practice, it becomes very easy for them to be able to adjust to that and be able to share the word of God. Whilst I'm here, I would also just like to share my experience as a wife, as a woman who came to a country who has never stayed in a country, who grew up in a township, and where things, as a child, I grew up in a township, and as a woman, I stayed in the suburb, where when you're cooking and you need something right there and there, you just pause what you're doing and run to the supermarket and get whatever and come and continue your day or your chore that you're doing. But country living taught me to plan things and to use whatever that you have. If you don't have carrots and you're supposed to use carrots for whatever, you use what is there. And if you don't have something that you tend to realize that when you are doing a certain recipe and you skip seeds because you don't have them, the recipe still comes out proper. So it was a time to learn that whatever that you have, you use. And with the garden also helping, that you rely on the garden, you eat fresh produce. But ladies, let me tell you something. If there's access, you are in trouble. Like, you'll be in trouble, that you'll always be fighting with those who are working in the garden, that I planted carrots and you guys are not using carrots when you have just eaten carrots the other day. So I hope they did not hear me. So those are, I think it's a challenge also, but you can work around it. You can learn to, if you have access, you freeze whatever that you have, you dry if you have a dryer, and you somehow preserve whatever that you have in access. But I really appreciate the garden. It really helps, especially with herbs. Herbs are really easy to grow, and we don't know, like, it's so easy to grow most of the herbs, and you even have them in excess that you can even dry some of them, so that when you are busy and in a quickly cooking, you can just go to the access the dry herbs. The other thing that I really enjoyed when I moved to the country is that there was no pressure, especially as ladies. The clothes that I had in the city, I spent about a year or two without going to the shops to buy any clothes, because I used whatever that I've been using in the cities, and the life becomes so relaxed that you don't even have to go and buy any new clothes as soon as you get to the country. And also creativity. This will be my last point. I remember the other time, milk used to be a big thing. It still is in our household. Like, we used milk a lot when we came from the city. And if there was no milk, like, breakfast was boring, people will be grumpy, there's no milk. And then one day, me and Rumufulu were in the kitchen, and we thought, how about we take the macadamia nuts, because we have a farm with macadamia nuts and avocado. How about we take macadamia nuts and try and make some milk? And after we realized that we have been having this treasure that we did not explore because we had, but because that day we did not have milk, and the circumstance helped us to think out of the box, and we came up with macadamia milk that was even more tastier than the milks that we have used before. And that's one of the things that I benefited as I moved to the country. I will end here. I think I will come back after for the question and answer session.
Okay. I hope that everyone is still with us. And my mother has related her experience for both country living and homeschooling. And to continue the program, I will introduce my brother, Rumufile Moko, who will talk about his the benefits that he had or that he faced, and some of the things that he encountered as he grew up as a homeschooler and as a country boy. Yeah, I think I'll put it that way. But yes, Ramofilo will relate his experience, and he will share. I don't know if you can. Ramofilo?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. So Ramofilo will relate his experience. Over to you, Ramofilo.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My experience in country living, I've found it to be interesting, and it's got ups and downs, but nonetheless, ultimately you are going up. And some of the benefits of a school environment and country living, of homeschool environment and country living, are that in the homeschooling environment, there is no competition that is usually encouraged in other schools. you are self-independent and you work at your own pace, and you become independent as a person because you wait. Can I be heard now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I think I'll just start because I don't know when to mute. I was saying that in my experience as a homeschooler, I found it to be beneficial both to the physical and the spiritual growth of a person, and that some of the benefits are that in a homeschooling environment, you are not pressurized to or subject to competition, because as a person, you work at your own pace and you do your work when you can, how you can, but nonetheless, it doesn't give way to laziness and to idleness, where you end up saying, no, today I don't feel like working, or today I don't feel like doing my schoolwork. It is something that is that we always strive that in all that we do everything with all our hearts, with all our might, and with all our strength. And some of the benefits of having both country living and homeschooling is that homeschooling, as it has been said, is it is not limited to a schoolroom. You work even when you're working on the farm, that is part of homeschooling. When you're working in the kitchen, that is part of school. And I think it's something that we fail to understand, that education should not be a means by which we get educated in order to run away from physical labor. But education is to make that physical labor more enjoyable, and to make that physical labor a choice, not because you're forced to. And what I mean by not because you're forced to, too often we find the circumstance that if you do not do well in school, they chuck you to physical laboring work, where you work with your hands or you work hard. And it is because of that concept that has been embedded in society that physical work should be done for those who cannot work with their brains. But even those who work with their brains, through working with your physical strength, you open up your mind. You open, because as you are busy laboring and toiling, you are not just exercising your physical strength, but through exercising your physical strength, even your mental capacity is expanded. And if I can just some of the skills, I think if we look at country living, we can say that it is surrounded with more of a skills development together with homeschooling, because there are certain skills, like Junior has already said, there are certain skills that we learned through our stay here. And some of the skills that we learned through usual school hours. For instance, if we had a project on the farm that we needed to do and it was not school holidays, we will take that break and go out and do physical labor or to learn the skills. And some may ask that, is this not disrupting you or disrupting your schedule, and even not just your schedule, but isn't it messing up with education time? I would like to infer that through that physical labor and through the toiling and all the learning that we done when we were not doing school, we benefited more. That time that we used there, it benefited us more than tenfold than if we had just stayed in that classroom and did our normal maths and our normal things. And some of the things, just to make it more practical, that we have done, I'll share pictures later on that of the things that we've done, or if I can be able to share my screen. Let me see. Share content.
Junior,
Okay,
you
Junior,
stop
can
sharing.
you stop sharing so that I can be able to share?
Yeah, I've stopped sharing. Try again.
Okay, let me see. Let me share content. Photo. Okay. I'll be sharing some of the photos that of the things that we have done while we're here in the country and doing both our schoolwork and sometimes even working or laboring in the fields. If let me just select these ones. All right. You can be able to see. These trees are the trees that we planted in 2018. And if you can see, I want a clearer picture. This right here, what you see on the screen is called terraces. And these terraces are done on mountainous plains where you cannot be able just to plant flatly because we live in a mountainous area. So if you just plant the trees, you will not be able to access them, or it will be very hard to access them, and there's the risk of cars and tractors overturning and all those sort of things. So these things are designed in such a way that they go against the hill. So on every row where we have planted these trees, we are able to drive and we're able to attend to those trees. And as you can just see, these are some of the things that what I'm talking about here. And this is a more perfect example where you can see the hill is going up and we're able to drive on every road. These things we designed together with a landscape architect. And, it didn't take us long to capture the skill. And at the end, not to brag, but some places we were actually now starting to guide this man who was a landscape architect, because we understood the concept was given to us. We understood that the concept is to allow water not to allow water to flow, but always to have a place where you can also drive. And we could see that no, this man is making the thing go up instead of making it level. So we're able to see that no, this is not what we were taught. And I think it's that balance that comes with mental education and physical education. Because sometimes if you just get the mental education, when it comes to implementing that that mental education that you have learned, it becomes difficult, because at the same time you can't even blame him, because the hill is not really just straight. It is, it's got in and outs. So it is more difficult to work in such circumstances. But through the grace of God and even what we've learned and how we learned to apply that knowledge, we were able to, do all these things that ordinarily you'll have to hire a land surveyor and a landscape architect to do. And now even the second time when we were doing this, we did not even bring the landscape architect, because we had understood the concept and even put it into practice. And now what you're seeing is some of the dragon fruits that we've planted. We planted this with our hands, and there's a statement that I wanted to read that says that there is not a physical manual labor that is more beneficial than agriculture, because you labored physically to plant these things, and now you're harvesting from them. And yes, where those trees were planted, this is how it was before, and we managed to design that thing, and this is the machine that was working. And some of the skills here, it is me driving the tractor here. These are some of the skills that you learn that ordinarily you will not be able to, or you'll not get the exposure to such information or such a place if you are not living in the country. And also, it is not just by living in the country, but we also need to practice these things. We should not be stereotypical and just want to go to the country just for the benefit of just sitting and developing our characters, but it should always, and I think that statement that my dad read earlier that said that you'll be like kings and queens in the country. I think God sometimes when he reveals things to us, he does not just give us the benefits, because now the motive of us doing that it will be the wrong motive. But the motive should always be that we're doing it out of obedience, and that through that God may be glorified. I think that is the end of my presentation.
Okay, we thank you, Remufide. Guys, if you feel Remufide ala shoutana, he's not shouting. He's very passionate about what he's saying. And we often tease him for, hey man, okhayana ka di salad. Mara, anyways, what Remufide was basically saying is that the benefits of obeying what my dad has said. The benefits of obeying are really a lot. It's something that sometimes you cannot comprehend. Personally, if I were to tell you, if I was to go back to 2013, 2012, I would have not seen myself being where I am today or having accomplished what we would have what we have accomplished on the farm, or be it with our studies and all that, but through obedience and trusting in God. Because at times throughout this journey, there were days where it really looked dark and you could not see beyond tomorrow. And God has always been faithful. My dad usually says that we've never slept hungry. You know, God supplies our daily needs always, and He is faithful in doing so. And now, Resoko will talk about, because Resoko is the only one who is still homeschooled. He's the one who's the last one, the last graduate to graduate from homeschooling here. So Resoko will relate what his daily life is as a homeschooler and what he does. So he will be sharing more of his practical schedule. So it's over to Resoko. He will now present.
Good afternoon and happy Sabbath to everyone. All right, I'll be sharing about basically my schedule and what I do. So usually on a normal day, I wake up at 6 o'clock and have my personal devotion, and at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we have family devotion. It depends on how my dad feels. If he's enjoying his devotion, it stretches, the personal devotion stretches till 7, and then we pray. And then afterwards, after praying, we do outdoor chores until 9 o'clock. And outdoor chores, it depends what's there, whether it's weeding the trees, weeding the garden, or it depends. Like recently, I've been caring for dogs, and it's kind of like it's puppies rather. It's a hassle taking care of them, making sure they are safe, feeding them, picking their litter, and yeah, doing such things. And afterwards, when I come back, I bath and prepare myself. Then at 10 o'clock, we have breakfast, and afterwards we clean up, and then I start with my schoolwork, and it just depends. As a homeschooler, you decide what to start with. There's no set schedule on what you're starting with. Are you starting with maths, or you just decide how you feel? And afterwards, when I'm done at school, you tidy up. If you can help in the kitchen, if they are cooking, if they need your help. Then usually at 4 o'clock, we have our dinner, and afterwards we wash dishes, and afterwards we pray at 7 o'clock. Then after we pray, then it's time to sit around as a family and chat until bedtime. And also one of the things I benefited than a normal school child is the family devotion and even the personal devotion. It does not get rushed. You take our time and there's no rush for we're late for school and such stuff. Yeah, that's basically what I'll share. Thank you.
Okay, Resra is the only one who was short and brief. Thank you for that. So Resra has related his daily schedule and what he does each day. And as a graduate from this homeschooling, it really, I benefited a lot personally. I'm here because of homeschooling. And I think Rumufile can also attest to that. And for me, as I transitioned to going to university, there were at first I did not see. I saw myself as I'll be compromised because I had a homeschooling background. People from school are better off. But when I got to university, I realized that the opposite was actually true because I learned to be disciplined. One thing about if you are used to a set structure at school where it's time period, it's time for this, and the difference with when you go to university is that at university you are independent. So most of the time you also have freedom. It's the first time you experience this freedom, and you'll do all the things in the world. And for me, homeschooling gave me the background or the lessons of discipline, being able to say, okay, I have time, let me do my studies. I have time, I need to go do this and this. I need to sacrifice this. And that really took me a long way in being able to be strict with my time and being able to complete all the assignments that I was given. And I will also relate our experience, as I mentioned before, that when we started our first season, we got to the farm and were able to harvest avocados, harvest macadamia nuts. Okay, we send them to the market, we export them, and some go to the local market. And as time went on, the more knowledge you get, the more you are able to apply it to the farm. And I can attest that every knowledge that we received and we put into practice yielded great result. And each year there's been improvement after improvement, and that also impacts the quality of our produce, the quality of the state of our fields, and even the practices that we apply. We planted macadamia nuts in 2017, and the mistakes that we made then are mistakes that we won't repeat if we were to plant macadamias again. And this would have not been possible if we had never tried. It's not an experience that you'll get from learning at going to Stellenbosch and taking a degree in agriculture. You won't have this practical application, practical experience, or the theory being put into practice. You won't have that experience. And it's one experience which we were afforded for free because of where we found ourselves, that being in the country. And with that, I will close and we will go into our question and answer session. And with this question and answer session, there are two families that we invited because they also have homeschooled their children, or the children have been homeschooled. And as for the Ramathalis, they've homeschooled and they also stay in the country, and the Madabas as well. have homeschooled their children, and I was actually going to the same university as Promise, who will also help us in some of the question and answer sessions. So I think we shall, with the permission of Mr. Singake, we will open the floor for questions.
Good timing, Ntate. So this is the crunch time for questions and answers. I think let's also take care of the chat room. I think there was a question sent there by Mr. Muzava. He asked, what is homeschooling? Is it parents teaching children from the home, or is it hiring professional teachers to teach our kids at home? So that is the first question. And we noted also there's a hand from Ntate Masikela. So if you can answer that first, and then we move on to Ntate Masikela. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to delegate this question to my mother, who will answer the first question. What is homeschooling? Is it hiring a professional teacher to teach your kids? I think she will answer. She'll try her best to answer.
Okay. When I started, I tried to bring the two explanations of what homeschooling is. The traditional way is taking kids out of school and teaching them at home. Either a parent can teach them, or you can hire a tutor. The South African law allows that you can hire a tutor to come into your home, not you taking the child to a different place, which could be a school room, a group of children being taught there, or in their private home, but it has to happen where the child resides. But I also came up with a practical way of homeschooling, because that is not possible for all the families to do that. And each family has a different goal to achieve in homeschooling their children. They have different reasons why they are homeschooling their children. Others, it's because they want to spend more time with their children, and they want to influence what their children are learning. And because they know what the children, how the children are, and they know how capable their kids are, they want to take the responsibility of doing that. So for each family, it's different, and depending on what experience you want to achieve. Maybe I can even allow one of the mothers just to share with us what homeschooling was for them, because it's different for every family. But obviously you start where you bring kids to the home and educating them. But from there, it becomes broader. Any of the mothers, can you share what homeschooling was for you? Maybe let's give that to Noni. Noni, can you please share with us, for you, what is homeschooling?
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so to us, when we started homeschooling, as the mother, I was teaching the children everything on my own until we got to the grades where we felt we needed someone who was specialized in that field. So we hired tutors only to do the subjects that I could not do, like maths and physics, but the rest of the subjects, then I was teaching the children. And what I can say is, yes, that's what we did. And even now, we have our little one who is still homeschooling. We have a tutor still who comes in every morning. But as she teaches the little one, I'm also around just to make sure that there is nothing that gets mixed up. Like for instance, there was a subject that they were doing and they had to focus on the days of the week and the months, etc. And I remember she was teaching the week starts on a Monday. And that is when I came in and said, no, Runa, we believe the week starts on a Sunday. So as much as you can have a tutor, but it's also very important as the parent to be able to be there and say your input, because if you don't, then you will have problems of what you believe in as a family to be misinterpreted, or the child not getting it as it should. Yes, I think I've covered what I wanted to.
Okay, let me give Junior to take over.
Okay, Masekela, I think you can proceed.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to raise a question. I think it was Remofilwe who mentioned the question of competition. That I think he said that in a homeschooling environment, there is no competition or very little competition. And maybe it's because I attended a public school where we were always comparing our marks. We were always comparing our performances at school. And now when you go to university, and maybe this is a question to Junior, to say, you grow up in an environment where there's no competition, and when you do get competition, what happens now? How do you handle competition? I must admit that I am a competitive person. I always want to be at the front and be the best, and so on and so forth. And that I do by comparing myself to others. It's something that, I mean, one could say it's unchristian-like, but it's in the world, and it's something that we experience. So how do you, who has been schooled in an environment where there is no competition, how then do you handle competition in a university setup? Thank you.
Okay, I will delegate this question to Promise. Promise has been in a traditional school setup and homeschool and been to university. So I think she stands a good chance of relating how she dealt with competition. And then I think we'll go to Remofile if he has anything to say. Can Promise hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Promise, and like Junior said, him and I go to school together, university. I'm in my 3rd year. And so the question of competition, I can actually say I relate because by nature, I'm also a competitor. Like, I measure my success with other people's success, or rather, let me say, I used to measure my success with other people's success. And that was when I was still in a traditional school setup. So I was in a traditional school setup from grade 1 to grade 9. So that's like a lot of years. And then when I got to from grade 1 to grade 8, when I got to grade 9, that's when my family decided to transition to homeschooling. And so for me, it was, at first, I was so discouraged because then my old bad habits, if I should say, of comparing myself with other people, I could no longer do that because I was alone. And so it really challenged me, because I think there's a quote or a saying that I read somewhere that says, the hardest thing to do is to compete against yourself. And I think that's what the Bible also says, that, you know, I think it's in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 12, where the Bible says that we do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. So I was forced to learn how to be my own competition. And because it's not something that you can see, it's not a visible change that you see. It's more of like, I don't know how to say it, but you cannot measure yourself with another person. You're the only competition. And so to set standards for yourself, you have to be, first of all, you have to be realistic. And also you have to, like my mom would always say to me, she would always say that the sky is the limit, you know, and she would say that you should always aim for 100%. So in my life as a homeschooler, I always tried to do that. I was my own competition. And so when I got to school, I found that like what Tate Masikela said, it's a worldly thing. Competition it's out there in the world. You cannot run away from it. But what I found when I got to a university setup is that all I did was I did my best. You know, I did not compare my best with someone else's best. I did what I was capable. And I should say, by the grace of God, for my first year, I was able to get a 4.0 GPA, meaning that I got all straight A's, if I should say. And for me, I was also shocked myself because I did not expect it, because like Junior said, as when you are from a homeschooling setup and then you go to university, you kind of think that they will treat you differently or you won't perform as well as you should. But for me, it was quite the opposite. And once again, I should thank God for that, because I did not expect it. Yeah, I don't know if I tried to answer the question, but yeah, I'll end there. Thank you.
Okay, I hope Dr. Masikela is satisfied. I see a thumbs up. I think you've served him well. I see two hands. I don't know.
I think
where
we
shall
can
I
start
start?
with Mera Muhlali. Maybe she was also gonna talk about the same stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Oh,
This is yes. I hope I'm not gonna be diverting a bit here, because it's not necessarily a response to the question. If you don't mind, I can maybe say what I wanted to say. It's merely a comment, really, more than anything else. And by the way, thank you. I've been inspired so much by the presentations, and I just wanted to latch on few comments or presentations. First, from Tatemoko. The issue of, and by the way, I'm saying this not private to the profile of the people here, the people in attendance here. However, I would imagine that there's a group that, okay, first of all, we live in a farm. It's been 2 years, and we're privileged, really. We feel blessed, really, we are blessed to be here. And I just want to mention the issue of the land. Tatemoko mentioned what to look for when buying the land, and he referred to excuse me, I've got a sore throat. He referred to A.G. White writings, and I wanted to say there may be people who are looking for a farm. I think maybe just to comment, to say people who are looking into moving into the country, maybe advice of saying what to look for in purchasing such a property. Not only that, also because some of these properties might be a bit costly. What other strategies can be adopted to buy such? Yeah, and also to indicate, or maybe just to emphasize what has been said, that the challenges of buying will be more serious in the future, which I would imagine that this future is nigh, very nigh. That is one. And then two is the issue of homeschooling, that I really think that is a privilege for kids who are homeschooled, and in particular for how the Mogos have done it. That the influence cannot be undermined of the mainstream schooling. The innocence that was there in the past few years when we were in school has been gradually or rapidly eroded, if I may so say so now, in the mainstream schooling. That's basically my comment, and I hope I did not digress much from the question that was raised.
Okay, thank you for the comment, Dr. Hamatlale. Dr. Singake, do you have a question?
Yes, so someone sent me a direct message, and the question is as follows. With regards to university, did they send their children to public university, or is it an online university? Thank you.
Okay, I can answer this one, I think. For me, I went to a university that was outside of the home. I studied in Thailand. I'm still currently studying in Thailand, a Thai university. But however, I have been privileged, or I've been able to study online because of the pandemic. The school allowed us to take online studies for those who so wish. So I am currently doing online, but I've been to campus and lived the campus life, as they say. Does that answer I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Thank you. Okay, there's a hand from Dr. Masikela.
Dr. Masikela has a question.
This one, Junior, is for you and Remofile and
Okay.
some of the older boys. How are you guys going to meet girls? We meet some of these girls at school. So if you're home, might be a bit of a challenge. So how are you going to resolve that challenge? What strategies are you guys applying? Are you looking at social media feeds and so on? Because that can also be discouraging for young people who grow up in the country. I'm sure there isn't many ladies on tractors and riding horses on social media.
Please show some pictures of women on tractors there. This man doesn't know.
No, I don't know how to answer you on this one. But however, we do socialize. We do meet people. We do engage on social media, but it can be very discouraging, like you say, what you see. But there's no strategy for now in Dr. Masikela. For now, Remofile says, and he's focused on his books for now. So we will let you know once there's a strategy as to how and where will we be looking and what is the timeline. We will definitely inform you. I hope that answers your question.
Let's escape that work. Let's escape.
I see Mama Sikela has a hand. I think she has a question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once more, the question I wanted to ask is around a question that I always get asked is, I mean, we had a lunch with our sons and daughters and grandchildren last week, and one of our sons had joined last week, and one of the questions that he asked, which I think I can ask as well, is how, I mean, if a child, because there's this thinking that when a child is homeschooled, the child is just sitting and not interacting with other children, so they become not social, if I can put it that way. And they don't experience the world out there. How are they going to be able to cope? Because you've been homeschooled, like you're sheltered, you're living a sheltered life, etc. So how does one handle or deal with socializing with your peers or with other children growing up if one is homeschooled? I don't know if that question makes sense.
I will put Promise on the spot again for this question. I think she can answer this one. Social life, how do you handle that?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a question that I also usually get, like when I used to tell people, when I was still being homeschooled, when I used to tell people that I'm homeschooled, they'd be like, okay, so like who are you gonna interact with? Because what they are assuming is that I'll be all alone in my room 24/7, which is not the case. And I usually tell them that people who are like, because I also used to have the same mentality, like I said before, I was in a traditional school setup, and people who usually ask this question, what we assume is that school is the only place to interact. And studies have shown, actually I was going through some studies of homeschooling, they say that 87% of the articles that are there that compare homeschooling and traditional schooling have found that homeschoolers actually, they do better when coming to being social, having being emotionally strong and physically strong and so forth. And so school is not the best place, and it's not the best, and it's not the only place where children get to interact. Like for example, my youngest sister, she's 5 years old. She's also being homeschooled, and throughout the week, she, unfortunately, we still live in the city, but then we make sure that we minimize her interaction with other kids, or rather control her interaction with other kids, because we know that interaction with other kids can also like corrupt. The Bible says bad company corrupts good manners. And so Pindula, what we do every time when we go to church on Saturday, that's when she actually gets to interact with other kids. And I think the best answer is our experience. Pindula interacts very well with other kids. And also for me, although I went to school, I'm not a very social person, but then with homeschooling, it actually it shocked me, because with homeschooling, that's when I got to be more confident and gain more social skills, because now I was not only limited to interacting with my peers, but I found myself interacting with people younger than me, people older than me, and I'd always have to adjust myself. And so when I got to university, being social was very easy for me. Yes, it was not difficult. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singake, I see your hand.
Yes, Menier. Yeah, I've received another question. The question is, what curriculum do they study at home? Do they write exams, get certificates? I suppose that meet the university entry requirements. So I think there's 2 or 3 questions in that. Curriculum you study, do you write exams and get certificates, which are university worth or which give you entry to university? Thank you.
I think this one needs the mothers. Mama Daba, is she here with us?
No, unfortunately, she's not here.
Okay. Okay, I will give it to my mother. She will answer that.
Okay. According to the South African laws, with homeschooling, it's a different thing. Kids are not depending on the curriculum. Of course, yes, you use a curriculum. And actually, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking that homeschooling is a broad subject. There are different types of homeschooling. There is unschooling and homeschooling. There are different types of curriculums that are there. Curriculums that are more on the academics only. The other curriculums include academics and the physical work. The other curriculums that are there, it's school all the way, classroom type of homeschooling. So what as a family we chose was to use the environment that we are living in, and we followed a set curriculum to a point where we outgrew curriculums, actually, what I can say. So what we'll do, I'll just make sure that I know what a child who is in a grade, make an example, grade 8, what are they supposed to know? And even beyond that, as the child easily receives or is not, I want a better word, let me use that, receives whatever that you're teaching them. But with homeschooling, if they understand that, you don't have to stick to that. You broaden the subject and you add more things, make it a little bit challenging for them, because if you don't challenge them, it becomes boring. Then up to you do grade 12, the only time where you are required to have a school leaving certificate is when they do grade 12. So what we did, there are 2 ways that I'm familiar with. It's the GED and Cambridge. So the child can either do the GED and write exam and get his school leaving certificate, or they can do Cambridge and also write the NSC certificate. Am I missing what else? So that's the only time where they will be required to test. Of course, the testing happens in different ways depending on what the mother wants to achieve from the child. It can be oral, it can be during, testing can even happen during dinner time. You just try and see what you are learning. Did the child really understand? And I think it's the best way, unlike when it's only books and writing, interacting with paper and pen, because also you should understand that children are different. Others, you can try and test them orally. Others, they put their knowledge easy on paper. So you also have to learn what your child, their learning style is. So I think I've covered the question. Maybe I can give Noni and she can tell us what did she do to test and make sure that the kids are on par with their peers. But most of the times, homeschooled children are far much better than the kids who are not homeschooled.
Okay, Runa, from our experience, what we did, we would not have exams, but what we would do is to make sure whatever concept was being taught, we went through it thoroughly until the child could understand it. And then we would move on to the next concept. And that gave us an idea that the child has understood the concept. So there was no need for us to do exams. And then the first time we did exams was in grade 5. And that is when I felt like I felt we needed to know for certain that our children were at the same level academically with the other children of their ages. And we did the exams. And fortunately for us, we had a friend who is a moderator in the Department of Education. So he helped us form exam papers. I don't like calling them exam papers, but yes. And then they would write those tests. And then with the one that I have at home still, who is homeschooling. Okay, before I get there, with the big ones, before they went into high school, the last grade they did with us, which was grade 8, what is standard 8? Standard 6, grade 8, yes. Then we would write an exam paper that was done by the government schools, and then they would write the same papers as the government schools, and then we would take those results. Those were the results that we used to apply at a school for them. And the little one who is still at home with us, we do assessments, a continual assessment. There is no exam, there is no test, but just a continuous assessment of the work. Yes, and then as for the curriculum, we started on a strict curriculum. We used ACE, and with time we stopped using it and moved on to another curriculum, which we just only took the maths, the English, and the science from that curriculum, and the rest of the subjects we did them with whatever that would interest the children. For instance, if we picked up a rock and they were interested in the rock, then we would do a thorough research on the rock and we would learn about it until we exhausted the subject. Then we would move on to something else. And now what we are using, we are still using the same method, but we have decided to use more of content that is South African based. Yes.
Maybe I can just also add to say the same curriculum that Maram Khale has just referred to, ACE. Actually, it's structured as such that at foundation phase, the passing mark for each module, no, it's not even module, like I forgot that they call it, pace, for each pace, the child must get 90%. And then when they leave foundation phase to higher primary, then it becomes 80%. And I can tell you that most of the homeschooling curriculums, that's the pass mark, not like how, and I think this also really answers the Masikela's question that here, it's not like the standard is lowered because the child is being homeschooled, depending on the curriculum that you're following. And also, remember here it's your child. So you cannot try to, the child has to repeat actually there is ways, you have to repeat the whole module if the child did not get 90% at foundation phase until they get the concept. And for us, because our two eldest boys, they did go to a school up to grade, the young Ramofilo went up to grade 1, and then his brother went up to grade 3. So until we homeschool. But when you're homeschooling them, they took them and put them on a test and realized that from the school, they had gaps on maths from grade 1, from grade 2, from grade 3. So they had to do that to catch up before they could continue with the level where they were. And the homeschooling, like actually Mamoko said, it caters different type of learners. And so each child is different. So there's no one size fit all. Each child will be, you teach the child how they learn best. So I think it's a pity, because of time, we try and summarize these things. But that's I hope this answer helped.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I just suggest that if it's available, could you please maybe just share a link with all these curriculums and also indicate which one you would recommend for someone who knows nothing about homeschool, but they're interested in doing so? Because I'm picking up that there's a lot of people in the group here who may be interested in this and may also need a little bit of guidance on how to choose a curriculum. So if it's available before we end the call, you can just send us a link and let us know which one you recommend. And to the usual administrators, may I ask that we maybe push this meeting by another, say, 15 minutes, and then we can close. Thank you.
All right. I think what will be also important is another, if you can get there's another lady, she kind of does a psychometric test because she's able to tell that this child learned with their left brain or their right brain. And then because that also influences the kind of curriculum you choose for a child. Because like if you look at ACE for me is the easiest from School of Tomorrow. Is the easiest if you come straight from schooling, but sometimes your child may not be, inclined to learn that way. Your child may want to learn using their hands or as visual learner, so they're all different. So it may be best, I don't know if you'll be able to get that link of that lady, and Marti, if I remember her name correctly. Yeah, I think for those who may need help, Mr. Sinyage, don't be shy to give my wife's details. She will perhaps be able to assist directing them to the relevant places.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see a burning hand from Dr. Masikela there. Juna can take over.
Okay, Dr. Masikela, we see your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ntatwak. I just wanted to ask this question. When I look back at my schooling years, it's more than maybe 35 years that since I was out of school. I feel cheated in a way, and I think my parents should actually ask for a refund from the schools that I went to, because what they taught me at school that it was I did not apply it in my life. So important things like budgeting, like how to look after your finances, how to look for a partner, and those kind of things, which influence the rest of your life. You don't learn them at school. How is there a way, and I suppose it depends on the curriculum as well that you follow, but how does homeschooling address these issues about the things that are important in your life, like a budget? A budget is very important in your life, because on a monthly basis, you need what we call Kasisoto, papaya letsatsi. And how do you budget for those things? Relationships, these are the important things as a person? How does homeschooling address those issues, if at all?
I think I will try and answer this one. It's something that I should say that I benefited from homeschooling and being able to live in the country. I remember when in 2013, these are concepts that we learned under pressure. And it was because my dad was still working in Joburg, and we were the ones who were managing the produce and um, sending produce to the market, seeing how much is we get, budgeting for laborers. Okay, we need to spend this much on hiring people to work, and these are things that I think my parents were quite open in terms of their books with us. They were very open as to this is how much we have, and this needs to last us till this time period. And they were really helpful in teaching us these principles. And I think it goes for all parents to be open with their children in terms of this is how much we have, this is what needs to be done, this is how much we need to save. And I think Ellen White does write about it, that children should be taught how to save and that they should not use their money recklessly so. And it's a principle that my parents instilled in us growing up, that this is how much you have, this is how much you need to save, this is how you use money. And it really helped us in being able to grow the business, the family business, and being disciplined in that today you might get 100 Rand. It should be able to last you till the next time you get 100 Rand again. And you may not get 100 Rand, you may get 20 Rand, and being able to balance our lives, adjust our lives to that circumstance of, okay, today we have 20 Rand, it should last us till the next time we get 100 Rand. When we get 100 Rand, we don't blow the 100 Rand, but we spare that 100 Rand till the next time. And it's principles that I would like to suggest that all parents should play their role in instilling, because they obviously manage their personal finances. Let's be open, parents, let's open up to our children. And I think it will also help our children to live a life where they are conscious of their demands, because I wouldn't demand my dad to buy me a shoe when I know that he only has money for bread. And you learn to live in this realistic environment. I hope that answers your question, Dr. Masikela. If there's any other parent or any other child who wants to attempt to answer this one, please go ahead. But I think if not, we can move on to the next question.
May I just add on what you said?
Sure.
Yes, I wanted to say that Christian principles also teach things like budget and choosing a life partner. I feel like as long as you're a Christian, if you read the Bible and if you read books like the one that Mr. Moko talked about, Adventist Home, you can learn all of these things. And then homeschooling is just like a cherry on top. Because with budgeting, for me personally, I learned how to budget through tithes and offerings. I found myself having money for myself, money for God, and money for the poor. Like if I meet a beggar on the street, I wouldn't take out from my own savings, but I would have money already set aside to give to the poor. And for relationships, a book was mentioned, Adventist Home. I've learned to read and kind of like memorize that book, especially when coming to relationships, so that it can be easier for me to find a life partner. And that book is so practical. It's so it's God-breathed, if I should say, because it's easy to follow. Yes.
No, thank you for that promise. I think Dr. Masikela should be satisfied where he is. I see another hand. Please go ahead. Deborah Mupuka.
Okay, thank you so much. Wow, this is very insightful. We appreciate the information that has been shared with us as stars. So I think with regards to country living, normally when you go online, we watch Urban Danger, country living. We normally see that the Americans are the ones that like have the opportunity to film or to show us how country living is done in their countries, but we hardly find people from like online, find somebody who's from Africa who shows like to portray or show us how country living is possible around here. Because when you go online, you see that these people would have nice heating, like heating equipment. You see the houses are cabins, like things that I would normally ask myself, is this thing actually even possible here in Africa? So it's quite interesting to see that there are people here at home who are already practicing that. But I think with regards to the housing, I was like, there was a video that was shot for us to for us to see that this is the type of country living that can be done in Africa, because Rebona, the ones that are in the US, but we've never seen here in Africa how it's the housing done, because in the US it's cabins. You see people having houses made with wood. Like they look a bit fancy from my perspective, and sometimes I wonder, can we as Africans like afford that? So I don't know whether it's asking too much just to probably give us a bit of the setting, like your household setting, and yeah, so that we can see maybe the African type of country living, not the one that we see from the US.
No, but this has always been a dream for us, and I think the Matabas can also attest to this, that we really want to, when God permits and gives us the means to make a documentary that is South African based, that is practical, and where we can show what it is like to live in the country, and show the type of things we do, how we work, how we, this things that will make the picture clearer for others who are in the cities, because there are many misconceptions, or the picture is blurry for many, and that may sometimes be the reason for the hesitance of adopting this lifestyle. I hope that answers you, but
maybe just to add about the misconceptions is that when you come to the country, you'll be carrying a bucket of water, going to the river, going to get the water from the river and going to a pit toilet. And that is so not true. Actually, people who are staying in the country have more things that other people who stay in a township or a setup that is not a country don't have. A flushing toilet. So those are the misconceptions that we want to put out there and show people what really country living is about. And just whilst I'm on the country living thing, it's a very simple life. Like people, most of the times, they fear that, oh, how are we going to survive? Here, you can plan and save all you want, all you have. Of course, planning is important, but when you come to the country, is a time where you build up your relationship with God, where your character is tested, where you learn to depend on God, faith. Planting a garden and it fails, and you have to live without whatever that has failed in the garden, but still continuing to trust in God and living a life that is simple. Our budget, like we got rid of so many unnecessary things. I think Noni can talk and elaborate. She can spend the whole day telling us about that, how she used to spend money and unnecessarily so. So in the country, the life is simple and there's no need to be spending unnecessarily.
Okay, Thank you, Mrs. Moko. And Dr. Singake, over to you. I saw your hand.
Yes, I just wanted first of all to say we are about to close. If there are any further questions or comments, I think this is the time now to raise their hand for the last time before we close, so that you can also get your questions answered. I also wanted to say, I'm sitting next to someone here. When the question was asked about African content, they raised up their hand that they will be creating African content on YouTube. So please watch the space. The YouTube channel apparently is called God Sustained. There's probably a video in there. So Ntebu, on the issues of cabin houses and stuff, I believe those things will be coming through in that channel, but with African content. And maybe you'll also get a snapshot into the cost of doing projects like those. So yeah, this person sitting next to me should be uploading videos in the next few months. And then the question that was raised in the chat, and that Demoko, is, what is the cost of homeschooling versus traditional schooling? I think you can briefly just elaborate on that. And remember, everyone, please raise your hands if you still have something that you would like to ask before we close the meeting. Thank you.
Homeschooling can be free if you want to. You can make it expensive if you want to. Just like country living, you can build a 3-bedroom house and be happy, or you can build a triple story in the countryside, you'll still be happy. So even homeschooling, you don't pay anyone school fees. That's point number one. Books, when we started, we had to order books from the US. Nowadays things are just online, so it just depends what you want to spend and how much you want to spend. You rather other people, they spend money on buying, establishing a workshop where they can teach their children carpentry and stuff like that. So it depends on your budget and what you have. If you don't have anything, you can still be able to do it. If you have a lot, you can still spend a lot and do it. Thank you.
I hope that answered the question. Very brief. I assume that there's no other questions. Mr. Singake.
Yeah, this is my last question, and I guess we can close if there's no other hands. So maybe if when you are done answering the question, you can close for us in prayer. The question is, one of the biggest things we have seen in the recent years, it's this thing of COVID that came with very difficult lockdowns and loss of jobs and all those kind of stuff. How did you guys experience these tough times? Because some of us live in flats here in Joburg, and it was very frustrating.
Yes, that is very true. I should say that for us being in the country, we really were not affected. And I remember when there was the strict lockdown and you needed a permit to go places, and we were privileged to have those permits because we were providing essential services. The food that you were eating was essential. So we were able to go to the store. There was no queue that you had to line up. You just showed your permit and you go straight to the front. And those are the benefits that through God's grace we were able to reap. And we were really not affected in that sense of our freedom being us being deprived of freedom of movement or freedom of accessing services. And I hope that answers your question, Mr. Singaki.
100%, thanks.
Yes. Okay, I think with that, we'd like to thank you guys for the questions, the hard ones, and the easy ones as well. We would like to thank also the organizers for the opportunity that they gave us. And with that, I will ask that we close our eyes and pray in closing. Lord, we are thankful for this wonderful day that you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity that we could gather here and share our experience with others. We ask that us relating our experience may encourage others to join in this adventure. We ask that you may help those who still have questions. May you reveal answers unto them. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, the Mwoko family. Thank you very much, the Ramuhlali family. And thank you so much for the Madaba family. And thank you for everyone who made it to the discussion and contributed. This was, yeah, as you can see in the chats, this was a very invaluable session. I also learned a lot of stuff. I mean, if it was up to me, we could still be going now, even to tomorrow, just talking to you guys. I was very excited and I really, really enjoyed this. And I'm pretty sure that everyone else has had the same experience. So again, I just want to say thank you for making the time and for sharing this very valuable information for free. Yeah. Thank you and enjoy your week, everyone.